Welcome back to the deep dive. Last time, we really started laying the groundwork for attachment theory. We looked into John Bowlby's really groundbreaking ideas about attachment being this core evolutionary survival thing.
Yeah, the big why.
Exactly, why we're wired for these deep connections. And we hinted at Mary Ainsworth and her huge role in seeing how this actually plays out in real life.
That's right. In our last deep dive, we got that core idea down. Attachment, it's not optional, it's fundamental, like being hungry or thirsty.
Right.
It's that sort of internal radar the child has, constantly checking, is my person nearby? Are they available? Paying attention. And that shapes their whole feeling of safety.
So, okay, Bowlby gives us this powerful why, this drive. But then the question becomes, well, what does it actually look like day to day? Are all attachments the same?
Good question.
Today, our mission is really to zoom right in on those individual differences. How do infant attachment patterns vary? And maybe more importantly, how do we even know? How are they identified?
And that's exactly where Mary Ainsworth comes in. Her work was just brilliant here.
This is where her strange situation procedure really shines, right? This is where it gets fascinating. Let's really unpack this.
Absolutely. Ainsworth, who worked closely with Bowlby, she saw that, yeah, attachment is universal, but the quality of it, that could be really different from child to child.
Okay.
So to look at this systematically, she came up with this really powerful method. It's called the strange situation. And it was specifically designed to kind of gently activate the infant's attachment system.
Activated how? Like put them under a little bit of stress.
Exactly. Mild stress, just enough to see how they react when they feel a bit unsure.
So tell us about this strange situation. What actually happens? How does it work?
Well, it's a controlled procedure, usually done in a lab setting, typically with infants around, say, 12 months old and their parent.
Okay.
They come into this small room, and then they go through a sequence of short episodes. Each one's about 3 minutes long, give or take.
And what kinds of things happen in these episodes?
Things like a stranger comes into the room, the parent leaves for a short time, the baby might be left alone for just a moment, and then, crucially, the parent returns.
It sounds simple on the surface, but I guess the magic is in the observation, seeing how that attachment system responds when it's needed.
Precisely. And what Ainsworth and her team realized is that the key moments weren't always about the baby crying when the parent left, though that happens. The really revealing stuff was during the reunion.
When the parent comes back.
Yes. How does the infant react then? That's where they got the deepest insights into the nature of that specific bond.
Okay, so she puts them through these little separations and reunions.
Mm-hmm.
What did she actually find? Did all the babies basically do the same thing?
Oh, not at all. That's what was so striking. She found these really clear, consistent differences in how the infants behaved. They weren't just random quirks. They fell into these distinct patterns.
Patterns that kept showing up.
Yeah, patterns observed pretty much universally across different groups of infants. She initially nailed down 3 main types, and then later research added a 4th.
Okay, let's get into them. What's the most common one?
So the most frequent pattern, you see it in maybe 60% of infants in a lot of studies, is called secure attachment.
Secure. Okay.
Now, these babies, they might get upset when the parent leaves. That's perfectly normal. But the key is when the parent comes back, they actively go to them, they seek contact, and they're easily comforted.
So they might cry, but then they calm down relatively quickly.
Exactly. They settle down, they feel safe again, and then importantly, they often go back to playing, using the parent as that kind of secure base to explore from.
That makes intuitive sense. They trust the parent will be there and be comforting. What about the others? What do they look like?
All right, then you have insecure-avoidant attachment. This shows up in about maybe 20% of infants.
Avoidant. How's that look?
These babies, interestingly, often seem quite unbothered when the parent leaves. But what's really striking is the reunion. They actively avoid contact with the parent when they return.
Avoid them. How? Like, just ignore them.
Yeah, they might turn away or suddenly get really, really interested in a toy, almost pointedly ignoring the parent. It's like they're trying to manage on their own.
That does seem counterintuitive. It looks like they don't care, but maybe it's more of a coping thing, like, I can handle this myself.
That's a really good way to put it. It suggests a kind of defensive self-reliance. And this pattern, it's often linked to parenting that might be a bit insensitive or maybe even rejecting when the child seeks closeness.
Okay, so that's avoidant. What's the third main one Ainsworth found?
The third is insecure-resistant attachment. Sometimes people call it anxious-resistant. Again, roughly 20% or so.
Resistant or anxious-resistant, what's the behavior there?
These infants tend to be extremely distressed by the separation, much more upset than the secure babies typically.
Okay, so very upset when the parent leaves.
Right. But then the reunion is really conflicted. They show these ambivalent behaviors. They might desperately cling to the parent, but at the same time resist comfort.
Cling and resist, like how?
Like they might push away or arch their back or even hit the parent while they're being held. They seem really hard to soothe, almost angry that the parent left, but still desperately needing them. It's this real push-pull dynamic. Very uncertain.
Wow. That sounds really tough for everyone involved, caught between needing closeness and sort of fighting it. Okay, so secure, avoidant, resistant. Those seem like clear differences, but you said a fourth one came later.
Yes, that's right. While Ainsworth laid out those initial three, further research, especially by Mary Main and her colleagues, identified another important pattern. It's called insecure, disorganized attachment.
Disorganized. That sounds different. What does that actually look like?
It's characterized by a lack of any clear, coherent strategy for dealing with the stress of the situation. These infants show behaviors that seem bizarre or contradictory.
Like what? Can you give an example?
Sure, you might see a baby freeze, just stop moving entirely. Or they might start to approach the parent, but then suddenly turn away or seem dazed. Sometimes they even show signs of fear towards the parent they're supposed to be seeking comfort from.
Fear of the caregiver. That sounds really worrying.
It is. It suggests a real breakdown in their ability to find safety and comfort. And unfortunately, this pattern is often associated with more difficult or frightening caregiving environments, maybe involving trauma or loss.
Okay, these patterns are incredibly insightful. But Ainsworth didn't just stop at labeling them, did she? She wanted to know why these differences happened.
Absolutely. That was crucial. Her work wasn't just about classification. She really wanted to understand the origins, and that led her to do these incredibly detailed observations of mothers and babies interacting in their own homes.
Ah. So she saw the day-to-day reality before they even came into the lab for the strange situation.
Exactly. Hours and hours of observation.
Hmm.
And based on all that data, she proposed that the key factor driving these different attachment patterns was the parent's behavior, specifically what she termed parental sensitivity.
Parental sensitivity. What does that mean exactly?
It's about how well the parent could perceive the infant's signals, their cries, their cues, their bids for attention, how accurately they could interpret those signals, and then how promptly and appropriately they responded to them.
So really being tuned in. Not just being there physically, but being emotionally available and responsive to what the baby actually needs in that moment.
Precisely. And she found clear links. Parents who were consistently sensitive, responsive, warm parodies, they tended to have babies who showed secure attachment in the strange situation.
In the insecure patterns.
Conversely, parents who were often insensitive, maybe they regularly ignored or rejected the baby's attempts to get close, or they were just inconsistent, sometimes available, sometimes not. Those parents were more likely to have infants who developed insecure patterns, either avoidant or resistant.
So the pattern really reflects the history of their interactions. The baby learns what to expect.
In essence, yes. The attachment pattern is like a summary of that interactional history.
This raises a really important point then. When we talk about secure or avoidant, is that something inside the child, like a personality trait they carry around?
Yeah.
Or is it more about the specific relationship they have with that caregiver?
That is such a critical distinction. And honestly, it's one that sometimes gets a bit fuzzy, especially when people talk about attachment more casually.
Yeah, you hear people say, I'm an avoidant or something.
Right. But attachment theory, especially in the way Bowlby and Ainsworth framed it, sees attachment as fundamentally dyadic.
Dyadic, meaning it's about the pair, right?
Yeah.
Between two people.
Exactly. It's not seen as a fixed property of the infant alone. It's understood as a characteristic of the relationship between the child and their attachment figure, say the parent.
Okay.
It's the dynamic between them. It's that process that helps the younger, more vulnerable one feel safer when things get stressful. It really emerges from their interactions.
So it's the dance itself, not just one of the dancers. That feels quite different from thinking of it as just, my attachment style.
It is different, and while those early patterns definitely can have lasting influence, thinking dyadically keeps the focus on the relationship. It emphasizes that the pattern describes how this particular relationship functions under stress. The core theory really grounds it in the interaction between the two.
Okay, that's a really important clarification. So we have these early relationship dynamics, these patterns emerging from interaction. How do they actually, carry forward? How does this early stuff shape a child's life later on?
Right. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's really central to the theory. The idea that the security of that first attachment relationship has these profound, lasting effects on later social and emotional development.
How does that happen? What's the mechanism?
Well, many researchers argue that these early experiences literally shape how we perceive, interpret, and respond to social situations basically throughout our lives. And the main way this connection happens is through the development of what Bowlby called internal working models, IWMs for short.
Internal working models,
Yep.
IWMs. Okay. Sounds like, I don't know, a mental blueprint or something.
That's a fantastic way to think about it. Blueprint, mental map, schema. Bowlby called them cognitive affective schemas, which is a bit technical.
Right.
But basically, yeah, they are mental representations. They get built up from all those repeated interactions with our caregivers, especially in those attachment moments.
And what do these blueprints contain?
They contain our expectations about relationships in general, expectations about other people, like are they generally reliable? Can I count on them when I need help? And also, crucially, expectations about ourselves within relationships. Am I worthy of care? Am I lovable? Do I deserve support?
So it's like this internal set of rules or beliefs about how relationships work and my place in them based on that very first, most important one.
Exactly that. Rules for how to behave, rules for how to think about relationships, and all the feelings that go along with it. It's all bundled together.
Can you give an example of how different patterns might lead to different IWMs?
Sure. So a securely attached child, having had that consistent, sensitive care, generally builds an internal working model that says something like, relationships are safe, people are mostly trustworthy and responsive, and I am worthy of love and care. It's a positive model of self and other,
Okay.
but an insecure child's models reflect their different experiences. An avoidant child might develop an IWM that says, relationships aren't reliable for comfort, I need to rely on myself. Showing need might lead to rejection. So maybe a positive model of self, I'm capable, but a more negative one of others.
And the resistant child.
Their IWM might be more like, relationships are unpredictable. Sometimes people are there, sometimes not. I have to work really hard, maybe even be demanding or loud to get my needs met, and even then it's uncertain. So perhaps a more negative model of self, am I worthy? And an uncertain or anxious model of others.
Wow. And these models form really early.
Very early, and they tend to operate largely outside of our conscious awareness, becoming the lens through which we filter and interpret future relationships, friendships, romantic partnerships, even our relationship with our own children later on.
So, okay, let's pull this together for today. We've really added some crucial layers to our deep dive. We revisited Bowlby's why, that survival instinct driving attachment. Then we dove into Ainsworth's absolutely critical work with the strange situation giving us the what and the how, identifying those key patterns, secure, avoidant, resistant, and then later disorganized.
Absolutely. And we connected those patterns back to parental sensitivity, that responsiveness being so key,
Yeah.
and underscored this really fundamental idea. Attachment isn't just in the child.
Right.
It's between the child and the caregiver. It's dyadic. It describes the relationship, the dance itself.
And finally, we touched on these internal working models, these mental blueprints, these schemas that we start constructing right from the beginning based on those earliest bonds. It's just so foundational.
It really is.
Understanding this is critical because, like you said, this isn't just about babies. These early experiences, filtered through those IWMs, genuinely shape how people navigate their social world for years, potentially decades. It's an incredible theory about how relationships literally build who we are.
It truly is profound when you think about it that way. And it leaves a pretty big question hanging there for you, the listener, doesn't it? Think about all these pieces, Bowlby's evolutionary why, Ainsworth's observational what's and how, the huge role of parental sensitivity, the fact that it's dyadic, and then these internal working models that carry it forward. How might all that shift the way you think about the impact of those very first relationships in anyone's life? Maybe even, reflecting on your own.
It definitely gives you a lot to mull over.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff. And we are absolutely not finished exploring this. We're going to pick this thread up and continue our deep dive in the next part. We'll look at how these ideas extend beyond infancy and really play out in adult relationships and well-being. So stay tuned for that.